It's time to ride in 3, 2, 1, let's get it. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Okay, go ahead.
Wayne's World, Wayne's World,
Woo!
Wayne's World.
Oh, yeah. Okay, hopefully we don't get copyrighted for that. Folks, people and other people, I have good news and I have bad news. We'll start with the bad news. Cole is lost overseas. He was going on a very adventurous trek. He read a lot of history books about Magellan, and he was like, I want to be a new person. I want to be the next person to find a new uncharted land in 2026 on this earth. So he went off on a sailboat. Haven't heard anything from him. He left like a few days ago. So hopefully he'll come back, and after he discovers Colandia, I think he was saying that he wanted to name a land. But until then, he's gonna be gone. The good news is that for the time being, I've found a co-host replacement, and it is none other than my mother, Michelle. Mom, thank you for joining the writer's room as an honorary writer. How does it feel? This is your first appearance on my show that's been running for over a year now. How does it feel to finally get your invite?
Overwhelming. I've actually been wanting to be on here for a long time. I've secretly sent texts wanting to be on here, requesting, but been denied several times.
Yeah, Cole sends those
I'm
straight
excited.
to the trash. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I'm excited. I'm nervous, but I hope I'm looking forward to it. I've been enjoying watching y'all do this, and so I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Well, there's absolutely no need to be nervous. This is gonna be fun, easy. Let y'all peek behind the curtain a little bit. Usually Cole is the one that records the OBS software with the Discord and the documents and stuff, whereas I have been editing the videos. Without Cole, though, I've had to figure it out on my own, and let me tell you, it's not as easy as it looks. I've been fiddling all day with this stuff, and I could not figure out a Google document thing with all the... Suffice it to say, I couldn't figure it out. So, hopefully next week I will be giving you some sort of writing thing. I originally planned for Mom and I to do some like flash fiction, which we may end up doing just verbally, and I'll have our glorious intern editor jerk, Billy the Beagle, kind of put the text in if we do end up doing that. But other than that, I think we haven't had a chill writer's room episode in quite some time. Definitely not in season 3. We've been doing a lot of writing, and we haven't had a guest episode since season 1, or maybe 2. It's been a while since we've just sat down with someone else and really talked about the craft and their perspective on stories, writing, everything else in general. So, my mom is here, and I'll let y'all in on a little secret, folks. She used to teach English in middle school. So, Mom, could you maybe give us some insight into just what that experience was like? You taught for, 30 plus years?
30 years, middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, language arts, and taught reading and, other things, grammar and things like that. But writing was a part of that. So I've had a lot of experience. I don't want to tell on myself or make myself look embarrassed by knowing that I just have a little bit of middle school writing experience. Braydan passed me years ago with his writing ability. No, he did. You did. So, but I was not a writer in school myself personally. Didn't really enjoy it at all. But I did enjoy teaching writing to middle schoolers. But it was like pulling teeth for trying to get students to think and to get it from here to their handwriting. So that's probably the biggest struggle, I think, with teaching writing. was just the creative process. And, but again, like I said, I have had that 30 years of teaching, writing, and reading, and they kind of go hand in hand. The better reader you are, I feel like the better writer you can be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But anyway, I'm not sure if I answered your question or
No, yeah,
if that.
absolutely.
Okay.
What, I guess, when you're teaching these young readers and writers, who many of them probably want to be anywhere else other than that classroom,
Absolutely.
how do you kind of plant that excitement into a student who would rather not be there? What's the best course of action into getting people excited about the art of reading and the art of writing as a result?
That's a great question. I think it took me a while to figure that out. But I think one of the key things with reading and or writing, or both, is what are they interested in? What piques their interest? And so many times in a public education setting, you're given, okay, we've got to teach you this kind of writing. We've got to write persuasive. We've got to write an informational. We've got to write, you've got to write these particular types of papers.
The dreaded essays of
yes,
middle school.
exactly.
I'm sure y'all all remember those.
Yeah, exactly. So you get, those are things you have to learn and you have to teach. But I think giving them time to do just like free writing, you could, for many years did journaling. Like once they come in my class, they could just, for 10 minutes, they could write anything they wanted. And if they didn't want me to read it, they just folded the paper in half. So it could be like a personal journal, or it could be, I would have prompts. They would have like at the front of their journal, with maybe 50 to 100 prompts that they could choose from. But they had to write. I didn't care about grammar. I didn't care about, sentence structure, nothing. Who cared? Just write and enjoy that. And I think that was probably some of the most enjoyable reading, going back and reading their entries, but also just giving students the chance to just be free in their writing. Mm-hmm. Of course, that was a small amount of time. We couldn't just spend an hour a day just free writing. So that's not a luxury that public school teachers have when you're teaching writing. But I think that if they enjoyed, and I would always tell the parents to get my students to read, I said, reading it and just reading a book, a novel, or reading what's required by the school system or what's required by the state, but reading a magazine, like if it's about fishing or hunting or wildlife or dancing or, cheerleading or whatever it is that the child is interested in, letting them pick something and reading it. And then and also with writing, that's the same thing. You just let them pick something they think is interesting and then write about it. But again, being a teacher, you do have boxes you have to check. You have standards and you have things like that. But I think probably the most beneficial and most relaxing part was just letting them have that time to free write and to just express their interests or their frustrations or not having it to be graded, just writing for fun. And then the same thing as with reading, if they were just able to bring their own book from home or bring a magazine from home or bring something that they could read that they were actually interested in other than what was provided in the library or what was in the textbook that they had to read. There's a place for that. Obviously, you have to, stick to the standards. But I think, I think as a public education as a whole, that's something that's lost. That freedom just to read and write what they want to write about, what they choose. Again, you're going to get more out of them by doing that.
Sure. Even now, I know it's been a bit of a stretch between now and when you were doing that. Is there any inkling of one journal entry or one thing that a student wrote that still sticks with you or that you can recall being impactful for that student or for you?
Not necessarily like specifics. I can generals, like a lot of times it was like maybe something that was going on at home, maybe something that was going on in their life that they wouldn't feel, necessarily comfortable speaking that out loud to me. Again, if the paper was folded, I wouldn't look at it. But if the paper was open, that meant they were willing to let me read it, and were willing for me to see that. So I guess that would probably be the most impactful, was to see that, oh, this child, I would have never known that about them. Or I didn't know they were interested in that. And it also bridged the gap of, making that connection with the student. Oh, you like deer hunting? Tell me more about that. Or, yeah, you may struggle with reading and writing, but you've got a great aim with a shotgun, or you're on the BB team, or you're on, whatever. So I think what was probably the most impactful, but I don't remember anything specific other than just sometimes the sadness that I would feel, for my students. It gave me a little bit more empathy when I was able to see into their lives. And sometimes I would write notes back to them, and they would love that, like, hey, I used to do this, or, maybe it was kind of like a one-on-one conversation. They would never just come up to me and tell me as a teacher, Unfortunately, that was more in the middle of my teaching career. The latter years of teaching, the curriculum became more rigid, and there was not as much freedom and time to do that. So that was, but as far as like one particular thing, nothing comes to mind. But I think just overall, just that particular type of writing.
Yeah, I think,
and giving them the opportunity.
I think that's great that you were able to give these students a chance to really express themselves. And I think that's something, like you said, that is lost in more modern school curriculums. I think
100%.
I think art is such an important and viable thing that people need to learn in order to find a way to express themselves. I believe I mentioned it on the show before, but there's a great book called What Art Does by Brian Eno. And one of his big, capsulating themes and arguments of that book is that art for adults is much like the imagination and sense of play of a child. So art is how adults play. Art is how we are able to connect with that imagination, that deep-seated feelings and emotions that we can't really express in any other way other than to just create and share that with someone that we believe can maybe receive it. And I think it's great that a lot of schools have these art classes, like visual arts, or maybe some schools have an AV class with videos and film type stuff. And there's not really a lot of room there's not a lot of creative writing programs in middle school and high school that I'm aware of, at least, which I think is, I'm going to be a little biased. I think writing is a great form of art, but no matter what style of art that is, I think it is important for kids young to be able to learn that, hey, this isn't just something that you do because you think it looks nice or whatever. This is something that you can keep for the rest of your life to really show what you're thinking, how you're feeling, if you don't know how to put that into verbal words to someone else. And there could be an entire other podcast series of what we think the United States Public Education Department should be doing. But we will leave that to other people. We'll leave that to NPR, because NPR can't have some real fun, singing the Wayne's World theme song at the beginning and maybe getting copyright struck. But I do think it's important to raise awareness of the things that schools are doing and maybe suggesting things that schools could be doing more of. So I like that. Earlier on in your career, you had the space to do free writing exercises. If we can fit that back in and give kids more of an avenue to express themselves in that way, while still learning all the important grammar and structure and all that other great stuff, kids can maybe it moves. then school moves past that like rote memorization part where it's like, I just got to remember things for a test, and becomes more of like, how can I apply all these into my own personal life in ways that can really better me as a person. So, kids are, the people that work at Board of Education, I've told you, I'm not going to say anymore. I already told you what to do. So,
yeah.
So
I think one of the things also that I remember my students enjoying the most was like what they called the young authors competition. Where the kids were just given class time to just write a little story. And it wasn't for a grade. We went through the writing process, like your rough draft, we go through that, but it was just a story. It could be about anything. It could be made up. It could be poetry. And again, the last, probably 10 years of my career, that was no longer even existent. And it gave children, I mean, I think you won it one year for your grade level, back when you were in elementary school. And, but it gave children that might not.
Stop. You're making me blush. Stop.
I know, right? Those are good memories. I had not thought about that in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about those children that might not be, good at math or good at reading or but just this one little creative outlet they're good at. And so, again, just another avenue for them to express use their imagination.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing is they don't get a time to really just to be creative. And that was something I did really enjoy, and reading their stories. And even the students that were, just really not good at writing, were terrible, couldn't write sentences or paragraphs or didn't have a lot of structure, they still had creativity. They had that thought process of, this is your main character. This is, there was a conflict, and even if it was their whole story was only 3 paragraphs, you got to see there is some creativity in every child. You go from playing with toys and that playtime and being creative as children to middle school, and they just don't get that chance to express it. So they may have hated it, but it was really a chance for them just to kind of, do something that they wanted for once. That was a fun part of it.
You heard it here first, folks. If you are a former Michelle Aspinwall student, she didn't care if you didn't like it. She was going to make you do it anyways.
You had to, yeah.
Yeah, you had to. You don't get a choice. I don't care if you're writing like, I don't like Miss Aspinwall. Like, you got it. You're doing it anyway. I told him that. Oh, you actually?
You could write a story about me. Doesn't matter. I could be the villain. I could be the antagonist. It
is interesting to see how ingrained those structures and themes and topics are into our culture today. Because, like, you're right. Like, you don't really have to teach a lot of people that absorb a lot of media, whether it's film, TV, books, any kind of fiction stories. You don't really have to do a lot of explanation of, like, this is the protagonist, this is the antagonist, stories have conflict. Like, we all just kind of grow up knowing that by watching and by observing. So a lot of great writers and professors say that you can't be a great writer if you're not a good reader, or you can't be a good filmmaker if you're not a good film watcher. You gotta absorb what else is going on and what other people are doing in order to really know how to kind of mimic some things or how to deviate away from some things. But you have to be absorbing all the time. You got to be a sponge. And shout out Lucy Coleman, because I think she also won that National Young Authors thing with me that one year in elementary school. I remember that. Again, they used to also do the November novel writing thing. Like, the month of November was, I don't know if that was associated with the National Young Authors thing, but it was something that also was discontinued around the same time, where November was like the novel writing month. You had a month to try to write an entire novel, and they don't do it anymore. And it's sad. It's sad that those structures for people to practice art are kind of slowly dissolving, because I think the large consensus is that art is pleasurable. It's not necessary. It's something that you can add on to if you already have all your other needs met as a society, as a person.
Boxes checked.
Yeah. And while, I'm not going to sit here and say art is more important than food or water. Obviously, that's not true. But I do think that kind of trivializing it in that manner takes away some of its power for some people that, people whose lives have been changed by creating or by observing art, and having no resources or avenues for people to like discover this naturally or express themselves. Who knows? Like, if I didn't have teachers in English or elementary, middle, and high school that weren't like, hey, you're doing great, I believe in you, I wouldn't be in this position. I definitely wouldn't be having a writing themed show. I'd probably have like a race car themed show or something stupid. Like, this is Braydan Kirkland on the NASCAR show. We can be talking about NASCAR or something, whatever the trajectory of a normal Southern guy is today. But it wasn't, if it weren't for those people just all they had to do was say, I believe in you. And that was the on-ramp from there.
Right.
If I was going to borrow a racing metaphor, like NASCAR. I think so. I don't know if any of the other, if any of your other students have had the opportunity to say thank you, but on their behalf, I don't care if they don't mean it or not. Thank you for pouring into these students and teaching them just a little bit, even a little bit about, writing, reading, and expressing themselves in a way that they wouldn't have been able to otherwise do without your help. I think teachers are... Yes, you're welcome. I think teachers are definitely the unsung heroes of any culture, of any society, and pay your teachers more. Pay your teachers more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you're gonna agree with that.
Yeah.
And pay your teachers' kids more. If I'm gonna add on a thing while I've got your attention. So you taught not just writing, obviously. The main thing was English language arts. And so I know you had a couple of books in rotation that you would assign. The dreaded middle school, high school reading assignments. Everyone, I bet, could remember what they had to read in middle school and high school. Those books, they will always stay with them because of maybe trauma associated with it. Some people may have enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed mine. But do you recall some of the books, or which books stand out to you the most that you had to assign people to read?
Probably one of the most difficult ones was probably in the mid part of my career, and was The Hobbit. That was a very difficult read for
sixth, seventh graders. Yeah.
Seventh graders. That was difficult. To make, unless you're into that kind of stuff, that was not interesting at all. But B, that was just it was written like they would say in 8th grade, 7th, 8th grade, because it's supposed to be, written on that level. But it was very challenging to teach and to get students into, especially you're in rural South Georgia, who, classroom full of, children and students that love to hunt, ride the 4-wheelers. Their idea of a good time is not sitting down and reading a book, much less a book about The Hobbit. And in that whole world, so that was probably one of the most difficult things to teach and to engage. Fiction is one thing, but that type of that genre was very difficult because you had to be completely absorbed in that world to understand it and to teach. I never understood the why behind that, but that was just a book that we were told by the state, not the system. We didn't get to pick that. It was a state level thing. So everybody in the whole state, and when you came through the 7th grade, you got to read The Hobbit. And fortunately, I will say fortunately, that's when they introduced the movies.
Yes.
And we were able to, okay, when we read this particular, but of course they didn't sequence like, I think it took like 3 different movies.
Yeah. They broke it into 3 movies, and those movies were separated by a couple of years.
Yes.
So poor students that are reading in like 2014 when only 2 movies were out, and it's like, what happens at the end?
Exactly. So fortunately, after like the 3rd year, when we had at least 1 movie, we could show that movie to give them some just the visualization of what this world looks like, and some just the conception of the concept of what that world is. Made it a little easier, but again, the difficulty of this is a whole nother show as far as like the vocabulary that you run into with struggling readers. If you can't understand the vocabulary and then you can't understand the world, that just compounds everything. Then that's a whole nother level of difficulty. Now, for students like yourself, you have always had a very good vocabulary. Reading The Hobbit probably was not difficult for you, but as a teacher, when we taught the students that got all the vocabulary, that class was a little more pleasurable. But for the students that struggled, that was difficult. Trying to think of the other.
Because not only is it like actual like high level English words, but also made up fictional words that Tolkien created specifically for the book that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, I can imagine that's difficult for any kind of young reader. Yes. And just leave it to the
teachers.
Yeah, leave it to the state of Georgia to only assign hard books when they have movies made out of them. They probably wouldn't be doing that without the movies.
I don't know what that committee was thinking, but that was a very difficult one, and it was not like it was an option, like you had these 3 books to choose from. No, this was one, and you taught this curriculum through the use of The Hobbit. Like you taught, again, the syntax, everything about the book. I'm saying you use that book, and it usually took almost 12 to 13 weeks, if not longer. And sometimes we quit a little early, so.
I wouldn't even finish the book sometimes?
Maybe not even finish the book. Yeah, because it's just like, you can only do so much.
Sure.
But I will say that one of the most... It was controversial for me because it was a 6th grade level book.
Wait, before you move on, I do have a couple more questions about The Hobbit because I'm interested. How much of how much of the lectures during that unit were specifically ingratiated with explaining the lore of that universe? Because like for people that haven't touched any of these Tolkien books, like that is like getting dropped in outer space. So how much time did you have to spend like going like, oh, this is Middle Earth, these are the elves, this is what the lore is like, this is the Lord of the Rings story that The Hobbit is building off of. How long did you have to explain all this stuff?
That just to build up the background knowledge was difficult. I had to research it. I was not a Tolkien fan. I was not.
Have you read?
No. No, I had not watched them. I had not done anything. So, again, you heard
it here first, Georgia Board of Education. This woman is teaching people Tolkien, and she doesn't know anything about it, except for her Google research.
We had to research and do it. And fortunately, the units that the state handed down, they would, they gave a little bit of background knowledge. Some of our students, and I relied heavily on those students, actually loved, and had watched Lord of the Rings, and so they were able to bring discussion. You're like, and so a lot of times you'd fake, that's right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And, that's the good part. I'd forgotten about that. So you can rely on those students. That was my favorite part. Yes, and there were some teachers that were there, that actually really were immersed in it. They loved it. And so, of course, I took everything I could from them. And so that as a teacher, that was challenging. So there was a lot of that background knowledge, but that you had to teach. Some of it, that's why I think that it was so difficult, because if you have a girl that, that was teaching that had no idea herself, was trying to teach the book, I think that's where some of the frustration came in. It was a lot of background.
Yeah.
Lots of background, and a lot of pulling from, Google, pulling from YouTube. Let's watch this clip. Let's just get a little piece of, because I'm telling you, you can't read and comprehend what you don't understand. And, but that's with any book, a lot of times that you think about, like when I was in high school, I had to read these books that, they were just dropped. You were given this book and you had no background knowledge. I guess that's part of teaching. That's why you teach it. Otherwise, some of these students would have never read The Hobbit. You know what I'm saying? Would have never picked that book up. Because it's not an easy reading, even as an adult. I was, I had to read the book myself, and
well,
I love to read.
At least you read The Hobbit.
Yes,
Didn't
exactly.
do any of the other things. At least you read The Hobbit.
That's not something I would curl up on, or lay out on the beach and read for fun, for leisure. That was not one of those types of books. But just, I think it was interesting for the students, especially that first year, to see that, even though you don't understand it, even though you can't fully appreciate Tolkien, you can still read it and get something out of it.
Yeah.
I think that was, as a teacher, we can't always read what, about deer hunting or, these Olympians that we love or athletes that we admire. You can't always just read about that. There is a lot of good literature out there that you may not fully understand, but they are important. And for a 7th grader, that was hard to. It's a hard book to
get around.
To get around, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and like you said, context for any book kind of matters. I remember a lot of when you're reading in middle school and high school is just learning about the history behind the book. Like, what time was the author around? Like, why is he writing about this thing in particular? It's because this was happening during their lifetime. And with something like Tolkien being so far into the imaginative realm where there is little to no relation to the context of the real world, that can be really difficult if that's your first real experience with something. So thank you to all the Tolkien fans in South Georgia that were really holding down the fort for everybody else. But so what were some other things? Because I think you were about to mention some others.
Well, I would say that probably one of the most challenging books to teach, not necessarily because it was a hard read, because it really wasn't a difficult read. It was a difficult book, but it was because we were told to teach this to 6th graders. And I felt like it was probably would have been more comfortable for 7th and 8th graders, maturity wise, as far as the content. But we were given this book to teach into 6th grade, and we're told we had to teach it, was The Outsiders.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That as an individual, just even personally reading it was very challenging because it's an emotionally heavy book. Lots of difficult concepts for 6th graders. Because there are sexual things that are in that book. There's gangs, there's death, there's lots of sad and heavy topics. So that was difficult for me because we were told we had to teach it, and we actually, I remember, reaching out to parents. In our small town, we had to say, this is what we're teaching, this book, and it was more censored maybe. If you would prefer your child not to read this book, you can. They were able to be exempt, but they had to read another book. But that was probably one of the most difficult books to teach to 6th graders. I remember specifically, we would get it would be read out loud by professional, that we could listen to it. Some of it we read in class. Sometimes I read it. Sometimes it was never fun to have 6th graders read because they're it just wasn't fun.
That was the experience.
Either I read
that was the experience that we had in 8th grade reading To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm
Yes.
sure y'all all know why that was difficult for little white Southern middle schoolers to be reading out loud. So luckily there's some circumvention, but yeah, there's definitely a conversation about maturity in some of these books. I could imagine. I did think that I was a part of the group that read The Outsiders in 6th grade. I guess I never really thought about how difficult that could be for a lot of 6th graders to be reading for the first time.
But it was very, again, I had some adult content that, I thought was a little too much for 6th graders. And there were actual chapters or actual scenes. I wouldn't pass out the book that day because I would read it and I would skip over it just because it's just personal convictions. I didn't think I wouldn't want, because I pictured it. I thought about you and your twin, your sister. I really don't want them reading this. Some teachers read it from cover to cover. Every word, every sentence, every scene, everything was read, and that was their personal choice, But for me, as a parent, now before children, I might not have thought as much about it, but after having children, I thought, I didn't read The Outsiders until high school, So to let again, that was just a personal thing. Why are 6th graders reading this? But again, I think I look at the rigor that you and your sister, watching as y'all were going through things that we didn't do until high school. Y'all were doing in 5th and 6th grade. You know what I'm saying? I think that people in our generation would know that. And then things that you were doing in high school, we didn't do till college. Things like it's that rigor that was, as just public education, nationwide and Georgia specific. I'm not saying that was right or wrong, but just I think that was probably one of the most difficult things to do was The Hobbit and The Outsiders. Even though The Outsiders is an amazing book, I think a definite.
The film is good too. Francis Ford Coppola's adaptation of The Outsiders. If y'all haven't seen it, go check it out. It's also very good.
Yeah.
I
just think that was difficult.
Yeah, it does seem odd. Like I've noticed also how, like all the structure's been pushed back, and I guess it won't be too long before like 5th graders are reading Atlas Shrugged or Ulysses by James Joyce. Like it's gonna be like they're gonna be reading the craziest postmodern stuff in 4th grade, and they're gonna be like, "What?"
Yeah, exactly. I think there has to be some common sense that 6th graders are not on this level, or just because up in, again, that's a cultural thing too, and that's a whole nother conversation. But
sure,
what children, 6th graders in Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, versus rural South Georgia. There's a difference there as well. So, but those were probably two of my most difficult books to teach for different reasons. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, yeah, no. It led on some cool conversations for sure. Let's see. What else did I want to ask about? Well, obviously, we don't have to beat around the bush, I guess, anymore. I mentioned on the show a couple months ago that I had finished my undergraduate classes, and on the recording of this episode, it'll be a week later, but by the time we're recording this episode, I have walked as a graduate of the Savannah College of Art and Design in dramatic. Of course, my mom's gonna say that for everybody.
Yes.
So I want to transition to you not just as an English teacher, but as the parent of a writer. And this is something that we could probably touch on a couple of these questions in the episode that Cole and I did with his mom and my dad. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Yeah.
So I want to ask. I don't remember exactly what questions we asked there, but I do want to ask you a couple of questions about what it's like from your perspective, because I'm sure, like, I won't pretend to say that when I came to y'all in like high school and said, I want to go to film school to be a movie writer, that y'all are all like, this is the greatest, most wise human choice that you could make in the year 2021 or 2022. This is gonna be like no strings attached, no rough sailing. Like, this is gonna be bueno. I can't. It probably didn't go down like that. Where was your head at in that exact moment? And if you could give some insight to maybe some other people out there, other parents that are listening to the same thing from their kids.
Well, just the whole creative avenue, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a business or business degree or, a lawyer or a doctor or, anything concrete. It was very definitely unfamiliar for me on territory. So I think as a parent, it was the practical side. What's this going to look like? How are you going to make a living? How are you going to provide for a family? I think there was a lot of things that parents look down the road. We look 10, 15, 20 years down the road. No, we don't look, necessarily right at the, okay, this is what he's going to do in graduation, or he still has time to change his mind. But I think it was, it took me going to SCAD and actually looking at the college and being there and seeing the creative outlets that were available for me to kind of get on board. I at first was, very just maybe intimidated, I guess, because it was something out of my comfort zone. I remember you as a young boy wanted to be an astronaut. You wanted to be, a lot of different things, but then when I saw you on stage, your end of your freshman year, I saw that creative process, the arts, and I saw you excel at that. And you've always been a writer, always loved to write. So I could see that creativity. But just as a parent of someone who is a teacher, your father was a teacher, we had that secure job with the secure paycheck. So I think that was probably the most difficult thing, just to kind of wrap my mind around that this was going to be a degree that you were going to really, possibly struggle finding a job. But at the same time, letting you live out a dream. Like when I was young, I would have loved to have been a backup singer for someone. Yeah, I love to sing. Not the best at it, but that would have been a dream of mine, just to go pursue.
No, don't let her say that. No, she's an amazing singer. Don't let her. I'm not going to let you say that on the internet. Come on.
Well, thank you, but just to say, I think I'll go and just try to pursue that. That avenue was never an option. Not necessarily that my parents would have never supported me. It was just that I would have never done that. But now, so I think just to let you explore that option, that this is risky or this is not the norm. But again, going to college, I mean, there are a lot of your classmates and that, and even my classmates that are successful and they didn't go to college. So whatever avenue that looks like for you versus your sister versus your classmates, that was I think very difficult at first. Am I glad you did it? Absolutely. I think you found your voice, you found your niche, you found that creative outlet that you're going to be able to go and do big things. And SCAD provided that for you. And I think obviously my only experience is with SCAD, and SCAD is, above par. I feel like, is
SCAD sponsor us. We will keep saying good things about you if you sponsor us.
I think, obviously that's just really an amazing school. But I think it's, that was, like I said, you telling us that, I was glad you were able to express that interest with us, felt that you felt comfortable to do that. But But again, I look back now and I think I'm so thankful that we allowed you to do that. And I'm actually sitting here looking at your senior picture.
Oh
gotta share that.
no! Oh man!
Uh-huh.
Billy, blur that out. Billy, blur that.
I don't know how well you can really see it, but
I can see
you
me.
sitting
No,
in that-
hold it back up again. Hold it back up to the camera. I can see me right now reflected in the old photo. That's like some
That's right.
some Bergman level Inception camera work.
Yes, because I mean this guy right here, you know, I mean, just sitting in that theater,
you know, at your
high school, and this guy right here, who's now a graduate of SCAD, these two guys right here, you know, that's really pretty awesome.
I know.
The vision you had and the determination to become this guy right here is pretty neat. Pretty cool, I think. But anyway, but I say all that to say, when this guy came to us and a few years before this picture was taken, obviously, but I think that was, this is the guy you're talking about. And I think it was amazing. I'm thankful that, you know, that the creator, the person the visionary behind SCAD, you know, and colleges like SCAD, I'm thankful for those, because of students like you that, you know, you could have pursued a degree in whatever you wanted because you just had the brains and the knowledge and the wherewithal to do whatever you wanted to be. But to be able to do a creative career is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I haven't and won't take for granted. If y'all are out there and y'all are, you know, weighing, is this something that I should do? Is this something that's even viable? I haven't been a art school graduate for very long, make it a day, but I would say, you know, you only have one life on this earth, and if you're lucky, and you can choose how to spend it however you want, but I would heavily urge you to make something beautiful out of it and share it with the world. And you always are making something more beautiful when you're doing something that means something to you, and when you're doing something that you actively enjoy and want to do. So, you know, have those difficult conversations with your parents, because I had a couple difficult conversations with my parents, and avoided a lot of difficult conversations with my parents too, because I didn't like confrontation and talking so much. But it was important. That was important because I feel like if I didn't do anything else, I would be kind of squandering the gift of life that we all get, and just do stuff that you like.
Yeah.
And if you're in a place where you don't like something, either get out of it or make something that you like within that place. So
I agree with that. I think for a parent, being willing to listen and trust that your child kind of knows what they want to do, and to say, no, you can't do that, or no, we're not going to support that. Where would you be now? You know, you would be successful at whatever you did, but I just think as a parent, you just have to put a lot of faith in your child, and that, you know, ultimately that, you know, you want what's best for them, and that you want them to be happy with life, because what I want you to do, and what, you know, as a parent, you know, what I see in your future is completely different possibly than what you're seeing. So I think this, again, one day post graduation, you know, SCAD alumni.
I have all the worldly experience, you know. I could go to the freshmen and be like, I've lived a life as a graduate. And
I think
was mostly spent with sleeping.
Yeah. But I think that's really being that we're on this side of, you know, we're, you know, 6 years ago is when 7 years ago is when you mentioned it, you know, and I'm just proud that you were able to do that, and that you're on this side of it. You know, it's exciting to see where you're going to go next with your graduate school and all.
Very, very exciting. Yeah. UGA, here I come, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're about getting closer to wrapping up, but I want to ask some more questions. This is a film writing specific show. We do other writings, but we're definitely mainly focused on film writing. And I don't think this is a question we ask every guest, but it probably should be. Mom, what is your favorite movie?
All time or current?
Both. We got time. And remember,
I think.
there is a right and wrong answer.
Oh, there is.
And you will be graded.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The comments below will judge you harshly for your opinions.
I appreciate a lot of things about a lot of different movies, but if I was going to sit down and watch my absolute favorite movie just for sheer enjoyment,
Desert Island, you get like one pick for the rest of your days. What movie?
You're gonna think I'm shallow when I say this. It's one of two.
Okay.
It's either 16 Candles.
16 Candles. Okay.
Or Pretty Woman.
Okay.
Or Dirty Dancing. Those are my three favorite. I really think.
This is why she teaches English and not math, because that was 3. You said 2.
But I really think that there's other films that I've seen in my adult life that I really appreciate more. And now that I've seen movies with you, my son, and listened to your commentary or your take on things, obviously there's a lot more that I appreciate about movies than just the shallow teen throb, types of movies. But as far as like I can't really just think of one that's just made an impact on my life. If you were to throw out some, I could probably think of some that are a little bit deeper than those, you know what I'm saying, high school.
And this gives me a chance to reconcile with a mistake I made in a previous episode. Going back to the Martini Shot episode from May, we were talking about a Park Chan-wook quote that I maybe misconstrued a little bit. He said he had a quote that art and politics shouldn't be separated. Art without politics, basically meaning that art should have a larger message attached to it. And I initially interpreted that as, empty art is vapid. And that's not exactly what he said. And I don't exactly agree with the original interpretation that I said. He also said that art without what I called empty art, or what you would call shallow art, there's a purpose for that too, even if it is just pure enjoyment, because that's still something that people seek out. Escapist art is so big because that's what some people want, and so you can make fun of these movies all you want, but after 4 years of film school, where I was coming in maybe a little bit more pretentious than when I'm coming out, where I was like, oh, that movie is like, it's shallow and pedantic. There's a reason why someone made it, and there's a reason why at least one person likes it, even if that one person is the person that made it. So there's no use in like pushing someone down for an opinion over a movie or a TV show, even if you don't have to personally agree with it, but
right.
And you can argue, or maybe not argue, but you can present your opinions on why you think that piece of art is not as good as another, maybe. But like pointing at someone and laughing for an opinion of a movie that they like that's not what art is for. That's not why art exists, for us to make fun of other people for their opinions. So I apologize, Mr. Chan-wook, for misinterpreting you earlier, and I do agree with you 100%. About the whole quote. I can't remember off the top of my head. Go watch the Martini Shot episode from May so you can get the whole context of what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I'm not going to make fun of you for liking 16 Candles or Pretty Woman. Those are good movies. Those are the classics of the 80s teen renaissance, I would say, under John Hughes and company. Those are solid movies.
I think one of the most difficult movies to watch was Schindler's List. I think that was impactful. That was a very difficult movie to watch because I think it was just probably one of the first times I've watched something with that type of depth, based on real, on real events, that it was horrifying to watch. That was very difficult for me, but I think that's I would have to say one of the ones that's made the most impact on my life, as far as what, when you got Pretty Women and Dirty Dancing and 16 Candles, Schindler's List. But I was sitting here thinking, I've got to come up with something better than 16 Candles.
Put that on a letterbox top 4. Dirty Dancing, 16 Candles, Pretty Woman, Schindler's List.
There are others. I thought if I could sit here and think, or if you could edit it and let me have about 5 minutes just to Google,
That's not how we do things around here.
I know, exactly.
That's not how we
so
do
you
things
kind of
around
put me on
here.
I know. So, let's see one of my other favorites. Let's see. I know what it was. Cutting Onions. That's a great
Whoa, that's crazy. We did read that script on the show. Go check that episode out. That's a short film that I made back in the early days of college. I had fun with that one for sure. Does it hold up? I don't know. You'll have to be the judge of that. But I guess that can be top. That could be top 5. Cutting Onions is not on 16 Candles, Dirty Dancing level, but maybe on Schindler's List level. Schindler's List was at that number 4 spot. Maybe Cutting Onions could jump above it one day.
Yeah, it will. It has.
So you hear that, Steven Spielberg? My mom likes my work more than yours. So I think that makes me better than the most accomplished American filmmaker.
Yeah. My opinion is so important.
That's a great conversation starter for if I ever get to meet Mr. Spielberg one day. So my mom likes me more than you. He's probably never heard that one before. He's probably never heard that line.
Nope.
Do
What would you say your favorite movie is?
Do you want to?
Or am I allowed to ask questions?
No, yeah, you can ask questions. In a scrapped episode that maybe we'll get to recreate one day, Cole and I actually asked others to guess what they thought our favorite movies were, and I don't know if you even have a semblance of a dartboard to throw at, but if you got something in the barrel you think is one of my favorite movies, I would like to hear what you have to say.
I'm terrible with remembering titles. I would say can't even remember the name of it. This one we watched together. Obviously, you probably showed it too. Did I watch it with you?
No, but I do want to. But I will hear out your guess. No. Keep going.
Let's see. It was I honestly can't remember. It was about. Had to do with. Dang, I'm embarrassed. It had a crazy title. It was like.
I think I might know which one you're talking about. Are you talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do love that movie. I do love that movie a lot. It has a special place in my heart. It is. I wouldn't consider it one of my favorites of all time, but that movie was definitely right up my sensibility alley and very inspiring and impactful as a young college level screenwriter. Was seeing that movie win so many awards and make bank that year was really like a wow, you can do crazy things like that
things.
that
Yes,
seem like
that's what I remember you talking about.
such silly ideas in your head, but like nobody would want to watch that. Well, apparently, yeah, they would, and they'll vote you as the best movie of the year if you do it well
Yes.
enough. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite movies, but I do really, really like that movie. I think currently standing my favorite movie of all time is a French film from the 50s, 60s called Cleo from 5 to 7 by Agnes Varda. Where are all my Varda heads at out there? Y'all know she's the best. She's the GOAT. No, it's a playful kind of drama movie about a woman who is really eagerly awaiting test results of she believes that she may have life-threatening cancer, and so she's kind of going about her day waiting for those test results, and that causes her to kind of reflect on her life and the situations and her relationships and things of that nature. But the craft of the movie really elevates it beyond pretty much anything else I've ever seen, because that filmmaker, she has such a singular vision, and she kind of helped create this French wave movement that has inspired American cinema for decades and decades and decades. Pretty much every 70s movie in America was trying to do something that the French New Wave did, and that Agnes Varda helped innovate with. We will have to sit down together and watch it. I'll have to show you.
Okay.
Cleo from 5 to 7 is one of those movies that I could do a whole lecture on, like a stop and go, like frame by frame analysis. The other being Rear Window, which I actually did in a class, and I think all of my classmates hated me because we were assigned Rear Window in an English class of all classes. My college English teacher at SCAD was like, we're watching Rear Window and we're going to talk about it. And so the day after we got that homework assignment, it was just me and the professor talking for 2.5 straight hours, playing and pausing Rear Window and analyzing every single detail.
Wow.
And it was just like they just listened to us do a 2.5 hour podcast on Rear Window. And I kind of feel bad because I worked at the school, and that weekend a guy from the class came up to where I was working, and he was like, hey, it's that guy that talked about Rear Window with the professor for 2.5 hours. I was like, yeah, that's me. I hope that doesn't stick. I hope that doesn't go around. But I could probably do the same with Cleo from 5 to 7 and a couple of other movies I really like.
Right.
I gotta make you watch some of my other favorite movies. Guys,
not horror.
Not horror. Guys, comment down below if you think I should make my mom watch The Lobster. It's not a horror movie, but it's another one of those wild kind of stories. It's like a dark.
It's not scary.
Dark comedy drama about this alternate reality where people who are single have to find love within a certain amount of time, or else they get turned into an animal. And so Colin Farrell is trying to find his sweetheart, his one and only. And if not, he's going to get changed into a lobster for the rest of his days, and he's going to be a lobster. So there's some dire circumstances, and it's a great movie. It's one of my favorites for sure, and one of the movies that inspired me to create weird little stuff. But yeah, so close guess. I will give you credit. Not quite, but I will give you credit because I kind of set you up because you've probably never heard of these other movies, even though I talked about them a couple times. But that's okay. I'm not going to hold that against you.
Thank you.
As we've said many times on this show, we don't hold anything against people for forgetting the French. I wish we could all do it, Before we get out of here, 2 more questions. One being, this is the writer's room. Cole and I write on this show very frequently. In fact, that's like the main thing that we do, crazy enough. Actually, no, I don't even know if I can say that legally. That's the main thing we do. The main thing we do is goof off and talk about whatever the heck comes to our head. In the background, we write. But
alongside that.
yeah, alongside that. So when and if, praying if Cole returns from his voyage, I've heard the sea conditions at this summer are quite perilous, and his location got turned off around the Aegean Sea. If he ever returns back home, is there any kind of swimming of an idea of you would like to see us write about? Give us your pitch and we will work it into a script at some point.
That's a tough one too. What I would like for you to write. I'm glad you can edit all this, right?
No, I mean I can.
This blank stuff,
but I'm not going to.
This blank, this gap of like, oh my god, I don't know what I want to do. Anything?
Absolutely anything. That's the.
It has to. Do y'all do comedy?
That's like almost exclusively what we do. We almost exclusively do sketch comedy.
One of my favorite things, I know this is going to sound weird, but one of my favorite things to do with my students, probably the last 5 to 6 years I taught, because I work with struggling readers, was to take, we were teaching mood, is taking like a horror movie and changing it into like, they would show the trailer would be a horror movie, but there would be like a dramedy.
Edit it as a comedy,
They would take like a comedy and make it into a horror movie. So flipping something like that, like taking like Psycho or taking one of your classic, that
would kind of be fun. That would
turn it into a romance or, just something, taking the concepts and flipping them.
That would be fun, even like as what you're suggesting of taking an actual trailer and editing it as another genre. Instead of writing, like, we haven't done anything like that. And I know Cole being the film guy, me being the writer, Cole as a film major, he would probably get a good kick out of editing something like that on the show. So I can enter his world a little bit, even though I do have experience editing. Yeah. And actually, I've edited something like that before. Have you ever seen my edit of the Lighthouse trailer as an early 2000s rom-com? So definitely like that kind of thing. All right,
that kind of thing.
You heard it here first, folks. If we don't do that episode idea in the near future, you have every right to shoot us on site. We will get that done for Mom as suggested. And before we close out, this is the question that I ask every guest that's ever come on the show. What is one piece of advice you would give to a writer, an aspiring writer, a parent of a writer, a friend of a writer, anything? Like, what's one thing that you hope that those people kind of take to heart? If you could boil it down into a sentence or a couple of sentences.
You're asking a language arts teacher to boil something down into one sentence.
So you should be good at that, right?
Yeah, I elaborate everything. My stories are not short. I would say, follow your dreams. I know, right? Follow your dreams. And if you come up with a concept, I think see it through. Stick with it. Follow where it leads you as far as where that topic may go. And just have fun and enjoy it. I think that would probably be my it's not very deep, but
no, that's great advice. I think everybody should definitely take that to heart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's gonna about wrap it up here from me and Mom on the writer's room. Hopefully Cole will.
I love you.
Return. Oh yeah. Actually, I wonder. I'm curious if Mom can do the outro that we normally do. Like, can you just take the wheel? give it your best shot?
I'm gonna let you do that. Why don't I do it with you? You go.
Okay,
You start.
all right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We really appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, Mom, what should they do?
Click
Click. Yeah, that's the first step.
subscribe.
Yes! Click the subscribe button. Also, there is a little bell notification next to the subscribe button that will let you know when we upload a new video. Yeah, keep pointing there. Keep pointing. Make sure they know where it is. Click the bell notification. That'll let you know when we're uploading a new video, which we have a pretty clear schedule, but if you need that easy access link, hit the bell notification. We do Writer's Room episodes when, Mom?
Every week.
On what day?
Every Saturday.
Every Saturday at noon. Every Saturday at noon, we got a new Writer's Room episode for you. Every Wednesday at noon, we have a new Gamers Room episode for you where Cole and I are doing some fun couch gaming. We are currently working through Bloodborne, and if you have any suggestions for new games, for new writing ideas, like Mom gave us one, please let us know in the comments. Hit the like button or hit the dislike button if you didn't like it, but if you do one of those, what's the rule, Mom? They have to do what? Guess.
If they hit the dislike button,
If they hit the
have
like,
to-
they have. If they hit the dislike button, they have to.
kiss my.
No. Well, I mean, yes, but they have to let us know in the comments what they didn't like so that we can improve our show.
Improve.
We don't know unless you don't. If we don't know if you don't tell us. We're making the show for you guys, and we want it to be the best product. So if you don't like something, please let us know what we can do to improve. If you'll go to our description here, you'll find links to our Instagram, our TikTok, and our podcast sources, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. So if you prefer to listen to our voices and not see our ugly faces, that's where to go. But that's offensive to my mom because she's beautiful. Like, you got to watch this on here. But if you don't want to look at me and Cole, I mean, I can't blame you. Go to Spotify, Amazon, or Apple. Check out the podcast from there. And if you like the show but have the attention span of a goldfish, check out our Instagram and TikTok. We got little clips of some of our funny moments,
awesome.
some of our great moments, which I really need to get back on editing those. I am very far behind of updating the clips. So y'all gotta let me know. Y'all gotta like blow it up and say, where are the new clips, Brayden? And I will give those to you on Instagram and TikTok. But that about covers it. Thank you. Everyone, thank my mom, Michelle, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hopefully, Cole,
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, absolutely. Cole, if you're seeing this, I hope you get back safe, buddy. And thank you so much for another great episode. We will see you next week. Goodbye.